Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark from the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1935 fantasy romance Peter Ibbetson.
I never want to see him again, forever and ever and ever. He's nasty. He's selfish. He's just an old person.
Hey, whoa, that's not fair at all. I consider myself to be a very kind and very nice person, and I just think that's a terrible thing to say. Though I am getting old. I will admit that. But the rest of that completely unfair. If this is your first time joining me, I am reviewing every movie in this book, the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Peter Ibbetson stars Gary Cooper as Go-Go/Peter Ibbetson and Anne Harding as Mimsy. Now, this movie was nominated for Best Music Score at the Academy Awards, and up until watching it a few days ago, I had never heard of this film, though I am a huge fan of Gary Cooper. I don't think I've ever seen anything with Anne Harding before. This film is an early psychological fantasy film for Hollywood. It explored dreamlike states, memory, and shared imagination. Now, one of my favorite films of all time, in fact, one of my top 10 films of all time, is called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I could definitely see how this movie would influence Eternal Sunshine. Obviously, the special effects and what they could do with the camera was way different back in the 1930s, but this has the same themes, the same emotion, the same true love type of feeling that Eternal Sunshine has, and I think that this film was absolutely amazing. It is one of Henry Hathaway's most lyrical works. He was best known for westerns and film noirs. His three probably most popular films of all time were True Grit, How the West Was Won, and Call North Side 777. All three of which I've actually seen. I didn't know he was a director of those three films till I researched it, but I have seen all those three films, and I actually think this one's the better of the four, if I'm being perfectly honest. This film uses soft focus cinematography, it uses dissolves and doubles exposures, and stylized dreamlike imagery, which was innovative for the time. It proves that love can transcend physical separation and was an ambitious romantic fantasy. When this film opens up, we are introduced to two children. One is called Go-Go, who is a male, and one is Mimsy, who is a female. They are arguing over a pile of wood. Now, Mimsy wants to use this wood to build a dollhouse, I believe it is, and Go-Go wants to use it to build a wagon. Now, these two children are friendly to each other, but when it comes to this pile of wood, they are cutthroat with one another. Go-Go's mother is deathly ill. She does not have that much longer to live. And later on in the movie, in fact, not that much later, she will unfortunately pass away. Now, Mimsy and Go-Go's characters, they tell each other that they're never going to speak to each other again because of this pile of wood argument that they're having, that they don't want to be friends anymore, that they're just going to go off on their own separate ways and do their own separate thing. Of course, this doesn't happen. They end up growing up together. They end up having this deep connection to each other. Almost, I would say, I mean, they're very small children, but you could tell that they do feel like they're sort of in love with each other, even though they're like probably 5, 6, 7 years old. After Go-Go's mom passes away, however, he is forced to move from the area, and after he moves, they do go their own separate ways. We are shown Go-Go as a adult. He is now called Peter Ibbetson, and he is a pretty well-known architect. He is kind of working his way up in the architect field, but he is very good at what he does. But you could tell that there's just something eating at him every day of his life. There's something just gnawing at him where he has a very hard time being happy and living the kind of life he needs to live. Now, his boss decides to give him this task to go to the Duke of Towers and help rebuild a barn that needs to be rebuilt. He needs to build the plans for it and rebuild it. So when he gets to the Duke of Towers' house, he sees that the barn is completely dilapidated. It's in a terrible state. He kind of wants to knock down the whole thing and rebuild it in his own imagination. The Duke of Towers' wife, however, has a different idea. She wants it to look just like another barn, I believe. another building that they have. Now, Peter Ibbetson says there's no way that this could work. It won't look very well. And they have a bit of an argument, but eventually they come to terms with each other, and they do it Peter Ibbetson's way. You can tell that these two people are kind of falling for each other. The wife of the Duke of Towers doesn't seem completely happy in her marriage. She also seems like there's something that's just gnawing at her, that she's just kind of complacent in her relationship, that she's just kind of going through the motions and isn't completely over the moon for the Duke of Towers. Now, we later learn that the reason for this is that this wife of the Duke of Towers, or this, I think she's either the wife or they're engaged, I think they're married to each other, is in fact Mimsy, who was Peter Ibbetson's childhood girl, and they fall in love all over again. So, I mean, it's like the end sort of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where they have, I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, this is going to be a spoiler for that movie, where they have their memories erased and then they end up falling in love with each other again anyway, because they were each other's true love and they were meant for each other, and they get to basically fall in love all over again. That's kind of what's happening here. These two characters are falling in love with each other all over again. Peter Ibbetson even says that he had this gigantic hole in his heart. He was never able to fall in love with a woman again. He was never able to look at another woman again because of this little girl he knew when he was younger who wore a little white dress and he pushed on a swing, and that was the only love he ever had in his life. And now he kind of gets to relive that, and he falls in love with her all over again. The only problem is that she's married, and she's married to the Duke of Towers. Now, the Duke of Towers realizes that this is going on, and he confronts the two, and they basically say that they're in love with each other, and that they want to be together. They knew each other at a young age, and this is the direction they want to go in. The Duke of Towers gets extremely upset, brings a gun to a knife fight essentially, and tries to shoot Peter Ibbetson. He is able to get control of the gun, I believe, and inadvertently in the struggle kills the Duke of Towers, and he is put into prison for the death of the Duke. Now, earlier in the movie, the Mimsy and Peter Ibbetson learned that they shared a dream together where they both went to sleep at the same time, they both had the same dream, and they could interact with each other and talk to each other in their dream. So while the Peter Ibbetson is in prison, they're also able to do this. He falls asleep, she falls asleep, and they're able to interact with each other and see each other in their dreams. So basically the second half of the movie is just them living the rest of their lives out in dreamlike sequences where he's in prison and she's basically in her own prison too. She's in love with Peter, but she cannot be with him, she cannot see him, so she pretty much sits in her house alone, but neither one of them are alone because they have each other in their dreams, and that's where they live, and that's where they hang out, and that's basically where they live out the rest of their life, is in this dream, until at the end one of them ultimately passes away, and that basically ends their relationship, their lifelong relationship from when they were children to when they're adults. How love always finds a way, how true love will always conquer everything. True love can even conquer the steel bars of prison because they can see each other in their dreams. I thought this movie was phenomenal. It is a kind of a moving tear jerker of a movie. I love when you have two children who are destined to be in love with each other and destined to be together forever, and then they ultimately are together forever. At first I was very annoyed by the two children. I thought the acting was very bad, but as the movie went on and as I got more accustomed to the children, I actually really enjoyed the relationship that they had together. I thought they did extraordinarily well for their age. They were able to show that they had this connection with each other even though they were very young. And later on, as adults, obviously Gary Cooper is a phenomenal actor, so was Anne Harding. You really believe this relationship, you really believe that they are going to be together forever, that they are truly in love with each other, and that they are each other's person. And it's just a very romantic, very phenomenal movie. I really enjoyed everything about it. The use of dissolves and doubles exposures for the dreamlike sequences was amazing. I thought they did an absolute phenomenal job with that. The soft focus cinematography was perfect for this movie. I thought everything about it was great. I never thought I would see another movie that was like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's probably because I just haven't seen enough movies, to be honest. But this one was very close. Obviously not exact, not perfect. I still think Eternal Sunshine is better. But this film was absolutely gorgeous in every way. And I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I hope you join me next time when I review the movie Modern Times. Thank you. Have a great day.